There is something you have been feeling for a long time that you have not had a name for. Not depression, not anxiety, not the ordinary dissatisfaction that comes from wanting more than you have. Something stranger than that, something more precise. It is that thin feeling, that cardboard quality that reality sometimes takes on when you look at it too directly. Like a movie set you have wandered behind by accident. Like a stage with the lights too bright and the backdrop too flat and the actors suddenly visible as actors. You look at your life, the routine, the goals, the things you were told would matter, and for just a moment, something in you goes quiet and says, "This isn't it." Not "this isn't enough," "this isn't real," and then you shake it off. Because what else would you do with that? You go back to the scroll, back to the chase, back to the performance of a life that looks correct from the outside, and the feeling passes, mostly. But it comes back, and each time it comes back, it stays a little longer, asks a little louder, presses a little harder against the inside of whatever you have been using to hold it at bay. Here's what I want you to understand before we go anywhere else today. That feeling is not a malfunction. That thin cardboard movie set quality that reality sometimes takes on, that is not your mind breaking down. That is your mind beginning to see. For the first time, possibly, in your entire life, something in your consciousness is turning around. Turning away from the wall it has been watching. Turning toward the fire, and the fire is brighter than the shadows. That is why it hurts. What you are experiencing, this disorientation, this sense that the ground is less solid than it used to be, the strange vertigo of seeing through something you used to believe in, is not a problem to solve. It is an observation beginning to happen. And what you observe at the deepest level of reality, you change. That is not a metaphor. That is quantum mechanics. And we are going to go there today. We are going to go all the way there. Because you did not stumble into this video by accident, and you are not the kind of person who turns away from something just because it is uncomfortable to look at. So look, Plato was not writing philosophy. That is the first thing I need you to understand. When Plato sat down and described a cave, a fire, a group of chained prisoners watching shadows on a wall, he was not constructing an abstract thought experiment for academics to argue about for 2,000 years. He was documenting something. He was reporting what happens when consciousness turns around and looks at itself. He was describing, with the precision available to him in his time, what we can now describe with the language of quantum mechanics and the science of observation. He saw something. And he tried to show you what he saw. And the reason his image has survived for 2.5 millennia, the reason it keeps appearing in every culture, every tradition, every mythology, every story that has ever mattered to human beings, is not because it is a clever metaphor. It is because it is a map of exactly where you are right now, a map of what you are in the middle of, a map of what happens when a conscious being stops looking at the wall and starts looking at the source of light. We are going to walk that map today, every layer of it. We are going to go through the cave, through the fire, out into the blinding light, and all the way to the sun. And along the way, I am going to show you the quantum mechanics of what is actually happening when you do. Because this is not philosophy. This is not ancient wisdom dressed up in modern language for comfort. This is measurable. This is the structure of reality responding to the quality of your observation. And by the time we are done, you will not be able to look at your life the same way. Not because I will have convinced you of something, because you will have seen something, and what has been seen cannot be unseen. Let's begin at the beginning. Let's begin at the wall. You have been watching shadows your whole life. So has everyone you know. So has everyone they know. This is not an insult. This is not spiritual superiority dressed up as insight. This is a description of how consciousness works when it has not yet turned around. The human mind, in its default state, does not observe reality. It observes representations of reality. Projections, interpretations, the shadow of the thing, not the thing itself. Think about what you actually experience when you move through your day. You do not experience the world directly. You experience your mind's model of the world. A model built from years of inherited stories, absorbed definitions, unexamined assumptions, and the particular angle at which you happen to be positioned when the light was cast. You experience, in the most literal sense, shadows on a wall. What is success? Your mind has a shadow for that, a shape it learned to recognize from watching other people point at it, argue about it, chase it, celebrate it. You have never seen success directly. You have seen the shadow it casts, the house, the title, the number in the account, the way people look at you when you have it. And you have been organizing your entire life around that shadow without ever asking, what is casting it? What is worth? Your mind has a shadow for that too, a shape assembled from 1,000 small moments in childhood when certain things you did were met with approval and certain things were met with silence or correction. You have never seen your own worth directly. You have seen its shadow, the reflection of it in other people's eyes, the performance of it in your own behavior, the frantic maintenance of it in everything you say and don't say. And you have been living inside that shadow as though it were the truth. What about love? What about normal? What about the story of who you are, what you are capable of, what you deserve, what is possible for someone like you? Every one of these is a shadow, a projection cast by something you have never turned around to look at directly. And here's the thing about shadows. They are not lies exactly. They are not nothing. They carry information about the object that casts them, but they are always incomplete, always distorted, always dependent on the angle of the light and the distance from the source, and when you mistake the shadow for the thing itself. When you build your entire reality on the interpretation rather than the observed truth, you have become a prisoner in the cave, not because someone imprisoned you, because you never turned around. If what you're seeing right now is landing for you, take out a second to like this video and subscribe. It helps more people find their way to this kind of seeing, and I want to keep making it. Now watch what happens when you do. The moment a mind begins to question its own projections, something shifts at a level that is not metaphorical. This is where quantum mechanics enters, not as a spiritual metaphor, not as a poetic flourish borrowed from physics to make a point sound more credible, as a literal description of what is happening at the level of reality itself when consciousness changes the quality of its observation. Here's the principle. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect describes something that initially seemed impossible to. Classical physics, the act of measuring a quantum system changes the system itself. Before observation, a particle does not have a definite position. It exists in a state of superposition, a cloud of probabilities, all possible positions simultaneously present. None of them collapsed into actuality. The moment observation occurs, the moment a measuring device interacts with the particle, the probability cloud collapses. A specific reality is selected. The act of looking does not reveal a pre-existing fact. It participates in the creation of the fact. This is not philosophy. This is the most rigorously tested finding in the history of science. The double-slit experiment has been repeated thousands of times under increasingly controlled conditions, and the result is always the same. Particles behave differently when they are being observed than when they are not. The observer is not a passive witness to reality. The observer is a participant in reality's formation. Now, what does this mean for you? Most people encounter the observer effect as an interesting scientific curiosity and then file it away under fascinating things about the quantum world that don't apply to my life. But that filing is itself an act of looking away, because the implication of the observer effect, taken seriously, is not a curiosity. It is a revolution. If observation at the quantum level participates in the collapse of probability into actuality, then the quality of your observation, what you attend to, how you attend to it, whether you observe directly or through the distorting lens of inherited interpretation, is not merely a psychological matter. It is a physical matter. It is a matter of which version of reality gets selected from the field of all possible versions. What you watch, you change. This is not a motivational statement. This is quantum mechanics applied to the scale of conscious experience. The shadows you have been watching, the projections you have been treating as reality, have been collapsing a very specific version of your life into actuality. Not because they are true, because you have been observing them as though they are true. And observation at every scale participates in the creation of what is observed. The moment you turn around, the moment you stop watching the shadow and start looking for the source of light, you are not just gaining new information. you're changing the quality of your observation. And that change in observation quality begins to collapse a different version of reality into actuality. That is what Plato saw. He did not have the language of quantum mechanics. He had the language of philosophy, of allegory, of myth, but he was pointing at the same thing. The prisoner who turns around is not just learning something new. The prisoner who turns around is changing the fundamental nature of their relationship to reality. And that change is irreversible. You cannot unobserve something. You cannot return to the probability cloud once it has collapsed into clarity. The mind that has seen the fire cannot pretend the shadows are all there is, not without a kind of violence against itself that is exhausting and ultimately unsustainable. That is why this feels so disorienting. That is why the thin, cardboard quality of reality is both terrifying and strangely thrilling. You're in the middle of a collapse, not a breakdown. A collapse of probability into a higher resolution of reality. Your old observations are losing their grip. The version of reality they were holding in place is becoming less stable and something new, something that has always been there in the probability field. Waiting for the quality of your observation to be sufficient to call it forward is beginning to take form. Look closer. Let's go deeper into the structure of the cave, because most people, when they encounter Plato's allegory, make a mistake that keeps them from seeing what it is actually showing them. They locate the cave out there. They decide that society is the cave, that culture is the cave, that other people's beliefs are the shadows. And from that position, they feel a certain satisfaction. They are the enlightened one. They can see through the illusions that trap everyone else. They have escaped the cave, but they have not escaped the cave. They have just found a more sophisticated shadow to watch. The cave is not society. The cave is the structure of unexamined consciousness itself, and the chains are not the beliefs you inherited from culture. The chains are the habit of looking at representations instead of looking at what is actually there. The chains are the automatic, reflexive interpretation that happens between experience and awareness, the layer where raw reality gets processed through the filter of everything you have decided is true, and comes out the other side as a shadow that confirms what you already believed. Everyone is doing this. The person who thinks they have escaped the cave is doing it about their escape. The person who believes they see through illusions is doing it about their clarity. The spiritual seeker is doing it about their seeking. The rational skeptic is doing it about their skepticism. The mind that has not yet learned to observe itself directly will always be watching shadows, regardless of how sophisticated the shadows become. This is the layer underneath that, and it is the layer that most explorations of Plato's cave never reach, because reaching it requires turning the observation back on itself. It requires watching the watcher. It requires the observer to become the observed. And that is the moment, that specific, precise, disorienting moment, where quantum mechanics and ancient philosophy converge on the same truth. Who is watching right now? Not what are you thinking, not what do you believe. Who is the one who is aware that you are thinking? Who is the one who notices when a thought arises? Who is the one who can step back from the content of experience and observe the experience itself? That is not a philosophical question. That is a direct observation prompt. And I want you to actually do it for a moment, not think about it. Do it. Notice that you are aware. Notice the awareness itself, not the thoughts arising in awareness, not the feelings moving through awareness, the awareness. The space in which all of it is happening, the one who sees, that is the observer. And the observer is not a prisoner in the cave. The observer is the one who was never chained. The observer is the consciousness that exists prior to the interpretation, prior to the shadow, prior to the story about what is real and what is not. The observer is the position from which reality can be seen directly, not through the distorting lens of what you have decided to believe about it. And here's what no one tells you about that position. It is not something you have to achieve. It is not a state you have to earn through years of practice or suffering or spiritual discipline. It is what you already are underneath everything you have been convinced you are. The observer is not something you become, it is something you recognize. And the recognition itself is the transformation. This is the quantum principle at the level of identity. The moment you recognize yourself as the observer rather than the observed, the moment you step back from the content of your experience and notice the awareness that contains it, something shifts in the field. The probability cloud of who you are begins to reorganize. Not because you have forced it, not because you have manifested it, because you have changed the quality of your observation. And observation at every scale participates in the creation of what is observed. Sit with that for a moment. Don't rush past what you just saw. If there was a moment just now, a flicker, a breath, a second where you noticed the one who notices, drop it in the comments. What did it feel like when you found the observer? Even for a moment. I want to know what you saw. Let me show you something. Let me tell you about a woman named Mira. Mira was not a philosopher. She was not a seeker. She was, by her own description, someone who was very good at her life. She had assembled the correct pieces, the career that required intelligence, the relationship that required effort, the apartment that required sacrifice, the reputation that required performance. She had built, with considerable skill and considerable cost, a life that looked exactly like what she had been told a good life looked like. And she was fine. She was genuinely, functionally fine. Until the morning she was sitting at her kitchen table with her coffee, looking out the window at the street below, and she noticed something she had never noticed before. She noticed that she was watching. She noticed the act of watching itself. The cars moving below, the light changing on the buildings, her own hands around the cup. And for a moment, a very brief and very strange moment, she saw all of it. The cars, the light, the hands, the cup, the life she had built, something being watched, as something she was observing from a position that was not inside it. And in that moment, the whole thing went thin. Not false, not wrong, not worthless, thin, like cardboard, like a stage set, like something that had been very convincing until just now, and now she could see the edges of it, the seams, the way the light was being cast from somewhere outside the frame. She put down the coffee. She sat very still. And something in her said, I have been watching shadows, not dramatically, not with the voice of revelation, just quietly, precisely, the way you notice something that has always been true, but that you have never looked at directly before. I have been watching shadows. The career is a shadow of something I thought would make me feel real. The relationship is a shadow of something I thought would make me feel worthy. The apartment is a shadow of something I thought would make me feel safe. And I have been so focused on the shadows, so expert at managing them, so skilled at making them look right, that I never turned around to ask what was casting them. What did she actually want? Not what had she been told to want, not what looked correct. What did she, Mira, the one who was watching, actually want? She did not know, and that not knowing was the most honest thing she had felt in years. Here's what happened next. And this is the part that nobody tells you about the moment of seeing. It was not immediately better. The recognition that she had been watching shadows did not dissolve the shadows or fill the space they left with something luminous and clear. What it did was make the shadows impossible to fully believe in again. And that is both the gift and the difficulty of seeing clearly. You cannot unobserve what you have observed. The cave that felt like home becomes impossible to fully inhabit once you have seen it as a cave. Mira spent several months in what she later described as the bright sunlight phase. Disoriented, eyes burning, missing the predictability of the shadows, even as she knew she could not go back to them. She tried to explain to people she loved what she was experiencing and found that the explanation landed badly. She tried to return to the career with the same investment she had brought to it before and found that she could not locate the source of that investment. She tried to find comfort in the things that had always provided comfort and found them thin, cardboard, stage sets. And then, slowly, something else began to happen. Not because she forced it, not because she manifested it, because she kept watching. She kept sitting with the observer position she had stumbled into that morning at the kitchen table. She kept asking with genuine curiosity rather than desperate need, what is actually here? Not what should be here, not what looks correct, what is actually observably really here. And reality, in response to the quality of her observation, began to show her. Not all at once, not in a dramatic revelation, In the way that quantum probability collapses into actuality, one specific thing becoming real at a time called forward by the clarity of observation that was finally precise enough to see it. A desire she had been suppressing for years because it did not fit the shadows she had been managing. A relationship that had been present all along but invisible because she had been looking at the wrong thing. A capacity in herself that had been there, waiting in the probability field for the quality of her attention to be sufficient to call it into form. She did not create these things, she observed them, and observation, at every scale, participates in the creation of what is observed. That is the distinction, and it is everything. You do not create reality. That is what the thumbnail is pointing at. That is the thing most people in this space get precisely, critically wrong. You do not create reality through positive thinking, through visualization, through the force of desire or intention or belief. The premise that you create reality puts you back in the position of the prisoner, still facing the wall, still trying to manage the shadows, just with a new technique for making the shadows look the way you want them to. The observer does not create. The observer sees, and what the observer sees clearly, reality reorganizes around. Not because the observer is controlling the outcome, because the act of clear observation without the distorting filter of inherited interpretation, observation from the position of the one who watches rather than the one who reacts, changes the quality of the measurement. And in quantum mechanics, changing the quality of the measurement changes what gets measured. This is the distinction between manifesting and witnessing. Manifesting is still a cave mind activity. It is still about trying to make the shadows look right. It is still the prisoner, still chained, still facing the wall, but now with a new set of techniques for influencing the projections. And that is not freedom. That is just a more sophisticated form of the same imprisonment. Witnessing is different. Witnessing is turning around. Witnessing is finding the observer position. The awareness that exists prior to interpretation, prior to the story, prior to the shadow, and looking from there. And from there, you are not trying to create a specific outcome. You are watching reality with sufficient clarity that reality can show you what is actually there, what has always been there, what has been waiting in the probability field for the quality of your observation to be sufficient to call it into actuality. Look closer. Now let's talk about what turning around actually costs. Because Plato did not soften this part, and neither will I. The freed prisoner, when he is finally unchained and forced to stand and turn toward the fire, does not feel enlightened. He feels pain. The fire is brighter than the shadows. His eyes, accustomed to the dim flicker of projections, are not ready for the source of light. He is disoriented. He is confused. He wants to go back. And then he is dragged outside, not gently, Plato's specific about this, into the full light of the sun, and the pain is worse. The disorientation is worse. He cannot see anything clearly. The world he has emerged into is too bright, too vast, too real for eyes that have only ever seen shadows. And for a period of time that is not brief and is not comfortable, he is less functional, less oriented, less capable than he was in the cave. This is the part that spiritual culture tends to skip over or minimize or dress up in language that makes it sound like a beautiful challenge rather than what it actually is, a period of genuine loss and genuine confusion and genuine grief. Because what you are losing when you turn around is not just the shadows. You are losing the identity that was built around watching them. You are losing the self that knew how to navigate the cave. You are losing the stories that gave you your sense of what was real and what mattered and who you were. And that loss is real. The grief is real. The disorientation is real. And the nervous system, which has been wired by years of living in the cave, does not experience this loss as freedom. It experiences it as threat. It experiences it as danger, and it will do everything in its power to pull you back to the familiar, even when the familiar is a cage, because the nervous system does not optimize for truth. It optimizes for survival, and familiar patterns, even painful ones, especially painful ones you have learned to survive, feel safer than the unknown. So if you are in that bright sunlight phase right now, if your old beliefs have become thin and your old life has become a stage set, and you are disoriented and grieving, and part of you wants desperately to go back to the cave even though you know you cannot, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken, you are not failing at awakening, you are exactly where the map says you would be. Your eyes are adjusting. This is the adjustment, and it is supposed to feel like this. The prisoner does not go directly from the cave to looking at the sun. Plato is precise about the progression. First, he can only look at reflections in water. Then he can look at objects directly. Then he can look at the sky. And only after time, after genuine adjustment, can he look at the sun itself, the source of light, the form of the good, the deepest reality behind all reality. You do not have to be at the sun yet, you just have to keep turning. Keep looking at the next thing that is available to you. Keep the observer position. Keep watching, not reacting. Keep the quality of your observation honest, and trust that the adjustment is happening even when it feels like disorientation. Here is the layer underneath that. There is something specific you have been refusing to look at. Not the general shadows, not the broad cultural programming. Something specific. Something that lives in the particular shape of your life, in the particular pattern of what you keep chasing and what you keep avoiding, in the particular quality of the discomfort that shows up when you get very quiet. You know what it is. You have known for a while. Not because you have thought about it clearly, because you have been working very hard not to think about it clearly. Because the specific thing you have been refusing to look at is the exact thing that transforms when you do. This is not a general principle. This is the most specific and personal application of everything we have covered so far. And I want you to sit with it for a moment before we go further. What is the thing you have been pretending is not there, not the shadow on the wall? The thing that is casting the shadow, the thing that your life has been organized around avoiding or maintaining or managing or performing, precisely because looking at it directly would make it impossible to keep living the way you have been living? Is it the relationship that you have been calling fine because calling it something else would require you to do something you are not ready to do? Is it the career that you have been calling successful because the alternative, admitting that you have spent years building something that does not actually matter to you, is too large a grief to face? Is it the story about yourself that you have been defending with your entire personality? The story of what you are capable of, what you deserve, what is possible for someone with your history? Because the moment you look at it directly, you will see that it is a shadow, and the shadow has been running your life. Is it the habit, the pattern, the thing you keep doing that you know in the quiet moments is not actually serving you, but that you have surrounded with enough justification and enough distraction that you can mostly avoid seeing it clearly? Whatever it is for you, and you know what it is. I want you to understand something. The reason it has this much power over you is not because it is true. It is because you have not looked at it directly. What you avoid observing controls you, not because avoidance makes it stronger in some mystical sense. Because in the quantum sense, what you do not observe stays in the probability cloud. It does not collapse into a specific form. It does not become something you can actually see and therefore actually respond to. It remains a diffuse, formless, omnipresent pressure that shapes everything without ever being visible enough to be addressed. The thing you are avoiding looking at is running your reality precisely because you have not looked at it. The moment you look, the moment you bring the full quality of your observation to bear on it, without flinching, without immediately interpreting it through the distorting lens of what you have decided it means, it collapses from a diffuse pressure into a specific form. And specific forms can be seen. And what can be seen clearly, in the light of honest observation, cannot maintain the power it had in the dark. This is not belief, this is quantum mechanics. And I want to ask you something here, in this moment, before we go further. Has there been a time when you finally looked at something you had been avoiding, and seeing it clearly took away its power over you? An illusion about yourself or your situation that dissolved the moment you stopped looking away? Tell me in the comments, because that moment of clear seeing, yours specifically, is exactly what someone else in this field needs to hear right now. Let me show you another layer. Let me tell you about a man named Elias. Elias had spent 40 years being someone who did not feel things too deeply. He had decided this about himself very early, in the way that children decide things about themselves based on a handful of experiences that happen before they have the capacity to question what the experiences mean. He had decided he was practical, rational, not given to sentiment or vulnerability or the kind of emotional display that he had watched cause damage in the people around him when he was young. And he was very good at this. He was competent and reliable and the person everyone called when something needed to be handled. He had built a life around the identity of the one who does not need too much, the one who manages, the one who is fine. He came to the observation not through spiritual seeking. He came to it through a crisis, the kind of crisis that strips away the management, the competence, the fineness, and leaves you sitting in a room with nothing to do but actually feel what is there. And what was there when Elias finally stopped, managing long enough to observe, was enormous. Not the crisis itself, the thing that had been living underneath the management for 40 years, the grief, the longing, the very specific ache of someone who had been so committed to not needing too much that he had prevented himself from receiving anything at all. The shadow he had been watching, the shadow of the practical man who does not feel too deeply, had been cast by something he had never once looked at directly. The terror of being seen, the belief assembled from those early experiences that his feelings were too much, that his needs were too much, that the real him, the one who felt things and wanted things and needed things, was a liability that had to be managed rather than a self that could be inhabited. He had never looked at this directly. He had looked at the shadow of it, the competence, the reliability, the fineness, and called that himself. And the shadow had run his life, had kept him at a precise, managed distance from everything that might have mattered, had organized his relationships around what he could give rather than what he could receive, had made him genuinely useful and genuinely lonely in equal measure. When he finally looked, when the crisis stripped away the management, and he sat in that room with nothing but the observer position and the thing he had been avoiding, something happened that he had not expected. It did not overwhelm him. He had been afraid for 40 years that if he looked at this thing directly, it would overwhelm him, that the feelings would be too large, that the grief would be too much, that he would fall apart in some irreparable way. But that is not what happened. What happened was that the thing, seen directly, became specific. It became a shape he could actually look at rather than a formless pressure he could only manage. And in becoming specific, in collapsing from a diffuse avoidance into a clear observation, it lost the quality of threat. It became, instead, information. Precise, useful, honest information about what had actually been happening in his life and what he actually needed and what was actually possible if he stopped organizing his existence around the management of something he had never directly seen. He wept, not because he was broken, because the observation was finally honest, and the honesty was the relief. He did not fix anything that day. He did not resolve the grief, or dissolve the pattern, or transform his life in a single sitting. What he did was look. And the looking changed the quality of his observation, and the changed observation began to collapse a different version of reality into actuality. Not through force, not through effort, through clarity. That is the observer effect at the scale of a human life. Pause here. This is not a thought exercise, this is an observation. I want you to close your eyes if you are in a position to do so. And I want you to do something very specific. I want you to find the thing you have been avoiding looking at. Not analyze it, not explain it, not judge it or justify it or immediately begin problem solving around it. Just look at it from the observer position, from the awareness that exists prior to interpretation. Just let it be there, in the light of your attention, without immediately doing anything with what you see. Notice what happens in your body when you bring honest observation to it. Notice whether it becomes more threatening or less threatening when you look at it directly. Notice whether the formless pressure of avoidance is actually larger than the specific thing that was generating it. Notice who is noticing. That is the observer. That is the most powerful position in the universe. Not because it controls, because it sees clearly, and clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. Take a breath. And let's go deeper. Here's what the return from the cave actually looks like. Because Plato's allegory does not end with the prisoner standing in the sunlight, eyes finally adjusted, seeing the world as it actually is. The allegory ends with the return. The prisoner comes back to the cave. He goes back into the darkness, not because he has failed, because the journey is not complete until the seeing is brought back. And this is where it gets complicated, because when the freed prisoner returns to the cave, his eyes cannot adjust to the darkness anymore. He cannot see the shadows clearly. He stumbles. He misses things that the still-chained prisoners can see perfectly well. And the prisoners watching him stumble draw the obvious conclusion: leaving ruined him. He used to be good at this. He used to be one of us. Now he is blinded, confused, less capable than before. And here's the thing Plato is pointing at that cuts like a blade. They are not wrong exactly. In the terms of the cave, in the terms of shadow watching and shadow management and shadow expertise, the freed prisoner is less capable. He has lost the skill of the cave. He has lost the ability to take the shadows seriously enough to be good at navigating them. And that loss is real. And the people in the cave will notice it, and they will interpret it as failure. You have probably experienced this. You have probably had the experience of seeing something clearly, seeing through a shadow, recognizing a pattern, stepping back from an old story, and then trying to bring that seeing back into a relationship or a context where everyone else is still watching the shadows. And the bringing back went badly. Not because you were wrong, because the cave does not have language for what you saw outside it. And the attempt to translate it into cave language distorts it. And the distortion looks, to the people in the cave, like confusion or arrogance or instability. This is not a reason to stop seeing. It is a reason to be precise about how you bring the seeing back. The freed prisoner who returns to the cave and immediately starts telling everyone that the shadows are not real is not being helpful. He is being disruptive in a way that cannot be heard. And Plato's prediction about what happens to disruptive people, the reference to Socrates, condemned to death for questioning the norms of his society, is not hyperbole. It is a pattern. Society does not punish ignorance. Society punishes disruption. And the most disruptive thing you can do is see clearly in a context where everyone has agreed to look at the shadows. So the return requires something different from announcement. It requires embodiment. It requires becoming, through the quality of your presence and your observation and your way of being in the world, a different kind of evidence. Not an argument, evidence. The freed prisoner who comes back and lives differently, who moves through the cave with a quality of attention that is visibly different from the quality of attention of someone who has only ever seen shadows. That prisoner changes the cave, not by arguing about the shadows, by being someone who has seen the fire. And some of the still chained prisoners will be curious about that. Some of them will feel, in the presence of someone who has genuinely turned around, that thin cardboard quality we started with. That moment of, wait, is this all? And that question, once it lands, does not leave politely. It moves in. It starts rearranging the furniture, and the process begins again. This is how consciousness evolves, not through argument, through the quality of observation that becomes available when someone who has genuinely seen brings that seeing back into contact with those who have not yet turned around. You are that person for someone in your life. You may not know who yet. But the seeing you are doing right now, the turning you are in the middle of, is not only for you, it is for the field. It is for the network of relationships and contexts and communities that your observation touches. Because observation is not a private act. The quality of your seeing ripples. The clarity of your witness changes what is possible in the space around you, not through force, through the physics of what happens when a genuinely clear observation meets a probability field that has been waiting for exactly that quality of measurement. Look closer. Let's talk about the hero's journey. Because Joseph Campbell was not documenting mythology. He was documenting the same thing Plato was documenting. The same thing every wisdom tradition in human history has been documenting. The structure of what happens when consciousness turns around and looks at itself, and then brings what it sees back into the world. Campbell's 3 stages, departure, initiation, return, are not a story structure. They are a description of the quantum mechanics of consciousness, evolution at the scale of a human life. And when you see it that way, when you stop reading it as a narrative pattern and start reading it as a map of what is actually happening in the structure of reality, when a consciousness expands its capacity for observation, something shifts. Departure is not the dramatic moment. Departure is the moment you stop looking away. That is all. It does not require quitting your job or leaving your relationship or moving to a mountain or making any external change at all. Departure happens in the interior. It happens in the moment when the thin, cardboard quality of reality becomes impossible to ignore. When the question, "Wait, is this all?" lands and does not leave. When you notice for the first time or the first time clearly that you have been watching shadows. That is the call to adventure, and you will try to ignore it. Almost everyone does at first, because ignoring it allows you to keep the old identity intact a little longer. Allows you to stay in the cave where the rules are known and the shadows are familiar, and the competence you have built around shadow watching still means something. The nervous system will make a very persuasive case for ignoring the call. It will dress the case up in practical language and reasonable concerns and the genuine observation that departure is costly. And it is costly. Departure is always costly. The cost is the old identity. The cost is the certainty that came from knowing how to navigate the shadows. The cost is the relationships and contexts and self-concepts that were built around the cave, and those costs are real. They are not small. And anyone who tells you that awakening is all liberation and no loss has not actually turned around. They have just found a more sophisticated shadow to watch. Initiation is the messy middle, and it is genuinely messy. It is the bright sunlight phase, the disorientation, the period when the old beliefs have become thin and the new ones have not yet fully formed. When you are between identities, between stories, between versions of yourself. When the cave is behind you and the sun is still too bright to look at directly and you are somewhere in the middle, stumbling, eyes burning, missing the predictability of the shadows, even as you know you cannot go back to them. This is the stage where the temptation to manufacture certainty is highest. To grab onto a new belief system, a new identity, a new set of shadows that feel more enlightened than the old ones and call that the destination. This is where spiritual bypassing lives. This is where the new cave gets built. A cave with better aesthetics, a cave with the language of awakening and consciousness and quantum mechanics, but still a cave. Still a wall, still shadows. The way through initiation is not to find new shadows to watch. It is to stay in the observer position, to keep the quality of observation honest, to resist the temptation of premature certainty and stay with the genuine not knowing that comes from having looked at the fire and not yet been able to look at the sun. To trust that the adjustment is happening, that the eyes are learning, that the capacity for direct observation is expanding even when it does not feel like it. Return is where the soul gets tested, not because you are meant to be a savior, because you are meant to embody what you have seen, to bring the quality of your observation back into contact with the world. To live differently, and not dramatically, not performatively, but genuinely differently. In the way you listen, in the way you respond rather than react, in the way you hold space for the still chained prisoners without needing them to be unchained on your timeline. In the way you keep watching, keep the observer position, keep the quality of your seeing honest, even when the cave is pressing in around you. And this is where the quantum principle becomes most practical, because the return is not about what you say. It is about the quality of observation you bring to every interaction, every relationship, every moment of your life. And that quality of observation, that frequency of genuine witnessing, rather than reactive shadow management, changes the probability field of every context you enter. Not through force, not through intention. Through the physics of what happens when a genuinely clear observation meets a quantum field that has been waiting for exactly that quality of measurement. The observer is the most powerful position in the universe, not because it controls, because it sees clearly, and clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. Let's go to the layer that most people never reach, the layer underneath the cave, underneath the shadows, underneath even the fire. The layer where the question stops being, what have I been watching, and becomes who has been watching. This is the identity question, and it is the most destabilizing question available to a human consciousness. Because everything you think you know about yourself, every story, every quality, every belief, about what you are and what you're capable of and what you deserve is a construction. It is a shadow. It is a projection cast by something that is not you onto the wall of your awareness and mistaken for the truth of who you are. Watch yourself thinking right now. Watch the thoughts arising, the assessments, the interpretations, the reactions to what you are hearing. Watch all of that, and then ask it genuinely, not rhetorically. Who is watching? The thoughts are not watching. The thoughts are what is being watched. The feelings are not watching. The feelings are what is being watched. The story about who you are is not watching. The story about who you are is what is being watched. The identity, the personality, the self-concept, none of these are the observer. All of these are the observed. So who is watching? This is the question that every wisdom tradition in human history has been pointing at. The Vedic tradition calls it the witness consciousness, the one who sees without being seen. The Buddhist tradition points at it through the practice of bare attention, observing experience without identification, without the story of a self who is having the experience. The Taoist tradition calls it the uncarved block, the original nature that exists prior to the conditioning that shapes it into a particular form. The Sufi tradition speaks of the heart that sees, the faculty of perception that is deeper than the mind's interpretation. Different languages, the same pointing, the same recognition that underneath the construction of identity, underneath the assembled self with its stories and shadows and carefully managed projections, there is something that watches, something that has always been watching, something that cannot be constructed or deconstructed because it is prior to both. And here's the quantum implication of that recognition. If the observer is what you fundamentally are, if the awareness that watches is more primary than the identity that is watched, then the quality of your observation is not a skill you develop. It is a nature you recognize. And the recognition changes everything. Not because you become a different person, because you stop being a person who is trapped in the construction and start being the awareness that sees the construction clearly. The construction does not disappear. The personality, the story, the assembled self, these do not dissolve when you recognize the observer. They become transparent. You can see through them to the structure that was always there. You can use them without being used by them. You can inhabit the identity without being imprisoned by it. You can watch the shadows without forgetting that they are shadows. This is the sun. This is what Plato was pointing at with the form of the good. The deepest reality behind all reality. Not a thing you see in the seeing itself. Not a truth you arrive at. The capacity for truth that was always already present, waiting to be recognized. And when you recognize it, when you find the observer and realize that the observer is not something you have, but something you are, the whole game changes. Not because reality becomes different, because your relationship to reality becomes different, because the quantum field you are participating in with every act of observation is now being met with a quality of observation that is not filtered through the distorting lens of the unexamined construction. And the field responds to that quality. Reality reorganizes around clarity, not because you are controlling it, because you are finally seeing it. Look closer. Let's do the second practice. And this one goes deeper. Close your eyes if you can. Take out a breath. Let the breath settle. Now notice your thoughts, not what they are about. Just notice that they are happening. Watch them arise and pass. Watch the movement of the mind. Now notice that you are noticing. Notice the awareness that is watching the thoughts. Feel the quality of that awareness. It is not a thought. It is not a feeling. It is the space in which thoughts and feelings arise. It is the container, not the content. Now ask yourself this: has this awareness ever not been here? Has there been a moment in your life, any moment, when this awareness was absent? Not a moment when you were unaware of something. A moment when awareness itself was gone. You cannot find one. Because awareness is not a state that comes and goes. It is the ground in which all states arise and pass. It is the observer that has been watching every experience of your life, from the earliest memory to this moment, without ever leaving, without ever being damaged by what it witnessed, without ever being diminished by the difficulty of what it saw. That is what you are. Not the thoughts, not the feelings, not the story, not the construction, the awareness, the observer, the one who has been watching all along. Let that land. Don't rush past what you just saw. Now open your eyes and bring that quality of awareness with you, not as a concept, as a felt sense of who is present right now. The observer is here. The observer has always been here. And from this position, everything you have been watching looks different. Here's what changes when you genuinely inhabit the observer position, not in theory, in practice, in the actual texture of your daily life. First, you stop reacting and start responding. Reaction is the cave mind's mode. It is automatic, reflexive, driven by the interpretation layer, the shadow processing system that takes raw experience and immediately converts it into a story about what it means and what you need to do about it. Response is the observer's mode. It is the gap between stimulus and action that becomes available when you are watching from the awareness position rather than being inside the reaction. Viktor Frankl, who understood this at a depth that few humans have been required to understand anything, said that between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space is our power and our freedom. That space is the observer position. That space is what becomes available when you stop watching the shadows and start watching from the awareness that is prior to interpretation. Second, what used to control you through avoidance stops working. The thing you have been refusing to look at, the specific thing we named earlier, the one you know, loses its power when you bring the observer position to it. Not because observation makes it go away, because observation collapses it from a diffuse, formless pressure into a specific, visible form. And specific, visible forms can be addressed. They can be seen clearly. They can be held in the light of honest awareness without the distortion that avoidance creates. The shadow that was running your life from the periphery of your vision becomes a thing you are looking at directly. And things you look at directly cannot run you from the periphery anymore. Third, your relationships change quality. Not necessarily the relationships themselves, the quality of what you bring to them. Because when you are in the observer position, you are not bringing your reaction to the other person. You are bringing your attention. And attention, genuine, non-reactive, non-interpretive attention, is the rarest and most valuable thing one human being can offer another. Most people have never been truly seen. Most people have been reacted to, interpreted, managed, assessed, judged, loved through the distorting lens of the other person's shadows. But genuine attention, the quality of observation that comes from the awareness position, that sees the other person without immediately converting them into a shadow that confirms what you already believe, that changes people. Not because you are doing something to them, because the quality of your observation changes what is available in the quantum field of the relationship. And what has been available all along but invisible through the distortion of reactive shadow watching begins to become visible. Fourth, your relationship to time changes. The cave mind lives in a perpetual anxiety about the future and a perpetual weight of the past, because the cave mind is always managing shadows, managing the projections, maintaining the stories, performing the identity, and management is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance. It requires that you never fully arrive in the present moment, because the present moment is where the shadows are most clearly visible as shadows. And that visibility is what the cave mind is working hardest to avoid. The observer lives in the present, not because it is spiritually disciplined or emotionally evolved or has achieved some state of enlightenment, because the present is the only place observation can actually happen. You cannot observe the past. You can remember it, interpret it, carry it. But observation, direct, honest, quantum-level observation, only happens now. And the observer, by definition, is always now. The moment you find the observer position, you are in the present. And the present, when you are actually in it rather than managing your way through it, is not anxious. It is not heavy. It is alive in a way that the cave mind, perpetually occupied with shadow management, never gets to experience. Let's go to the final layer. The layer that brings everything together. The layer that answers the question this video started with. When you see through reality's illusion, everything changes, not because the illusion disappears, because your relationship to it changes, because you stop being someone who is trapped inside the projection and start being the awareness that sees the projection clearly. And from that position, the observer position, the most powerful position in the universe, reality is not a fixed structure you navigate. It is a quantum probability field that responds to the quality of your observation. The shadows do not stop existing. The cave does not cease to be a cave. The projections, the inherited stories, the cultural conditioning, the assembled identity, none of these dissolve when you see through them. What changes is your relationship to them. They become transparent. You can see through them to the structure that was always there. You can inhabit the world without being imprisoned by your interpretation of it. You can engage with the shadows without forgetting that they are shadows. And from that position, you are not trying to create reality. You are not trying to manifest a specific outcome or attract a particular experience or force the probability field into the shape you have decided you want. You are watching, clearly, honestly, without the distorting lens of what you have decided reality should look like. And reality, in response to the quality of that observation, shows you what is actually there, what has always been there, what has been waiting in the probability field for the quality of your observation to be sufficient to call it into actuality. This is not a promise of a specific outcome. This is a description of a specific relationship to reality. The observer does not get a guarantee about what they will see when they look clearly. They get something more valuable, the capacity to see what is actually there. And what is actually there when you stop filtering it through the distorting lens of shadow watching is almost always more than what the shadows suggested. Almost always more alive, more complex, more full of genuine possibility. Because the shadows, by their nature, are flat. They are two-dimensional projections of three-dimensional objects. And the objects, when you turn around and look at them directly, have depth and texture and quality that the shadows could never capture. The reality that becomes available when you genuinely inhabit the observer position is richer, stranger, more surprising, more genuinely alive than anything the cave mind's shadow management could produce. That is what changes, not just your perception, the actual quality of the reality that your observation participates in creating. Because observation at every scale participates in the creation of what is observed, and the observer who sees clearly participates in the creation of a clearer, richer, more genuinely alive version of reality than the prisoner who has only ever watched shadows. This is what Plato saw. This is what every wisdom tradition has been pointing at. This is what quantum mechanics confirms. And this is what you are in the middle of right now. You are turning around. You have been turning around for a while. The thin, cardboard quality of reality that brought you here is not a malfunction. It is the beginning of the adjustment. Your eyes are starting to see the fire. And yes, it is brighter than the shadows. And yes, it is disorienting. And yes, part of you wants to go back to the familiar darkness. But you cannot. Not fully. Not anymore. Because you have seen something. And what has been seen cannot be unseen. The mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. You cannot shrink yourself back into the cave without a kind of violence against what you now know. And you are not someone who does that. You are not someone who looks away. You were never meant to look away. Let me give you the third practice, the integration practice, the one that brings the observer position into your daily life, not as a meditation, but as a way of being. For the next 7 days, I want you to do one thing. Every time you notice yourself reacting, every time you feel the pull of the automatic response, the reflexive interpretation, the shadow management kicking in, I want you to pause, just for a breath. And in that breath, find the observer, not by thinking about it, by doing it, by stepping back from the content of the experience and noticing the awareness that contains it, by asking, even for a fraction of a second, who is watching right now? You do not have to change the reaction. You do not have to improve the response. You do not have to manifest a better outcome. You just have to find the observer for one breath. And from that position, note it, what is actually there, not what the shadow suggests is there, what is actually observably, really there. That one breath is the whole practice. That one breath is the turning around. And if you do do it consistently, not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently, you will find over those 7 days that the quality of your observation changes, that the shadows become more transparent, that the thing you have been avoiding looking at becomes less threatening when you bring honest attention to it, that the relationships and contexts and moments of your life have more depth and texture and genuine possibility than the shadow watching was allowing you to see. One breath, find the observer. Notice what is actually there. That is the practice. That is the whole practice. Everything else is elaboration. Now let's talk about the community of observers, because you are not doing this alone, and the field of observation is not a private matter. Every person who is genuinely inhabiting the observer position, every consciousness that has turned around, that is watching from the awareness position rather than the reaction position, changes the probability field for everyone in their vicinity, not through argument or persuasion or the force of their example. Through the quantum physics of what happens when a genuinely clear observation meets a field that has been organized around less clear observation. Clarity is contagious, not in the sentimental sense, in the measurable sense. The quality of observation that one consciousness brings to a shared field changes what is available in that field for every other consciousness present. This is why the community of observers matters, not as a support group, not as a collection of like-minded people who validate each other's seeing, as a field, a quantum field of observation that, when multiple consciousnesses are genuinely inhabiting the observer position simultaneously, amplifies the clarity available to each individual within it. You are part of that field right now. The fact that you are still here, that you have stayed with this for as long as you have, that you have been willing to look at the things this transmission has been pointing at, means you are genuinely inhabiting the observer position. And that quality of observation you are bringing right now is not only changing your own probability field, it is contributing to the collective field of observation that makes it easier for every other consciousness in the field to see clearly. This is the return. This is what the freed prisoner brings back to the cave. Not a lecture about shadows, not an argument about what is real, a quality of observation that makes it easier for the still chained prisoners to feel the thin cardboard quality of their own shadows. That makes it more likely that the question, wait, is this all, will land. That creates the conditions in which the turning around becomes possible for someone who is not yet ready to turn. You are not responsible for anyone else's turning. You cannot drag someone into truth like you are dragging a couch up a staircase. But you can be someone whose quality of observation changes the field. Someone whose presence makes the turning more possible. Someone whose genuine inhabiting of the observer position is a living demonstration that there is something to see when you look. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to drop it in the comments below. What did you see today that you had been avoiding looking at? Not the general principle, the specific thing. The shadow you named when I asked you to look at the thing you have been pretending is not there. One word or one sentence. What was it? Not because sharing it makes it more real, because naming it in the field of other observers who are also naming what they see completes the observation. Because the act of bringing what you saw into language and into the shared field is itself a quantum act. It collapses the diffuse pressure of the unspoken into the specific form of the witnessed. And specific forms, witnessed in the light of honest observation, cannot maintain the power they had in the dark. Type in it below. I see it now. And then tell us what you see. And if this transmission changed the quality of your observation today, if something in you turned around even slightly, even for a moment, share it with someone who you sense is feeling the thin, cardboard quality of their own reality. Someone who is asking the question, but has not yet found the language for it. When you send this to them, you are not just passing along a video. You are giving them permission to look. You are contributing your clarity to their field before they have even pressed play. And that act of sharing creates something that neither of you generates alone, a collective observation, two consciousnesses oriented toward the same truth, which amplifies what becomes visible for both of you in ways that solitary seeing cannot reach. Because the quality of a shared field of observation is not the sum of its parts. It is something larger, something that makes the turning around easier for everyone inside it. And if there's someone in your life who has been avoiding something, who has been living in the thin, cardboard quality of a life they cannot yet name, send them this, not as an answer, as an invitation to look. You were never meant to look away, neither were they. Here's the integration principle. The thing I want you to carry with you when this transmission ends. Not as a belief, as an observation to test in your own experience. What you observe, you change. What you avoid observing controls you. And the most powerful thing you can do, more powerful than any technique, any practice, any system of manifestation or attraction or creation, is simply to watch, clearly, honestly, without flinching. From the observer position, that is not a state you achieve, but a nature you recognize. The quantum field of your reality is not a fixed structure you navigate. It is a probability cloud waiting for the quality of your observation to be sufficient to call specific actuality forward. And the quality of your observation is determined not by how hard you try or how much you believe or how perfectly you perform the techniques. It is determined by whether you are watching from the awareness position or the reaction position. By whether you are seeing directly or through the distorting lens of the unexamined shadow. By whether you are the observer or the prisoner. You are the observer. You have always been the observer. The prisoner was a role the awareness played while it was waiting to recognize itself. And now you have recognized it, and the recognition is irreversible. The cave still exists. The shadows are still there. The chains are still available to anyone who wants to put them back on. But you cannot forget what you have seen. You cannot unobserve the fire. You cannot shrink the mind back to the size it was before it opened to what is actually there. And that is not a burden. That is the beginning of freedom. A strange freedom, sometimes heavy, sometimes lonely, sometimes disorienting in the way that all genuine seeing is disorienting, but clean, like fresh air after a long time in a crowded room. Like eyes that have finally adjusted to the light, like a consciousness that has stopped watching shadows and started seeing what is actually there. This is where you are. This is what you are in the middle of. And it is exactly where you are supposed to be. The observer is the most powerful position in the universe, not because it controls, because it sees clearly. And clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. What you watch, you change. What you avoid controls you. And what you are willing to look at directly, without flinching, without immediately interpreting it through the distorting lens of what you have decided it means, what you are willing to truly see, transforms in the light of your awareness. Not because you forced it, because you watched it. And watching, at every scale of reality, participates in the creation of what is watched. You were never meant to look away. Now you see, and what has been seen cannot be unseen. Stay in the observer position. Keep watching. Keep the quality of your observation honest. And trust the field. Trust that what you are calling forward with the clarity of your seeing is more real, more alive, more full of genuine possibility than anything the shadows could have shown you. The adjustment is happening, the eyes are learning, the sun is closer than it was, and you are still looking. That is everything. That is the whole thing. That is what changes when you see through reality's illusion.